everyone. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Well, I went to the Taste New York event last night at the Convention Center. Jim, I saw your son. It's great to see all of you again. And what a great celebration of agriculture in the state of New York. I love this event. I go every single year. I get to see the future farmers of America. I always encourage those young people to continue with their studies and know that someday they'll take their place among the great people who make this state so extraordinary, and that is our farmers. I'm well aware that it's an $8.5 billion industry. This is critical to our success, critical to our economy, but also critical to our ability to just take care of our people and feed them the fresh fruits and produce and dairy that you manage and grow on your farms. Over 32,000 family farms. That's extraordinary. Now, the numbers have been trending downward. I'd love to see that get higher, but that is something that is so important to the fabric of our state. And I want you to know, having represented in Congress one of the most rural areas of our state, that's how I got to know Jim and his family, that I've been to so many farms. I've been there in the early season when you go to an apple farm and it's been a harsh year and you open up, you take a look and you see that the stem is already dying and it may not produce any fruit for the entire year. So I've seen that. I've seen the struggles of our dairy farmers, the price of milk vacillating so intensely, but everybody's so resilient. That's what I love about our farmers. There's nothing that keeps them down because they've seen it all. You know, the invasive species, the floods, the droughts, the global marketplace. And yet they keep coming back every single day, waking up and doing their job again, and really inspiring oftentimes the next generation. So many family farms are out there. And I'm very sensitive as I was walking through last night, talking to a lot of farmers, and they're so proud of what they've created and proud that it's made in New York, whether it's the maple syrup or the amazing apples. I mean, we are, top 10 commodities in so many areas nationwide. And I know our commissioner, we talk about this all the time, our great pride in this. And what I want to continue doing as a governor who understands this industry and how critical it is to keep making investments. We've done a number of things since I've been governor. We have spent a great deal of money in our budget. Agricultural spending is up 60% in our budget since I became governor. I want to make these investments, and I want to continue making those, and also making sure we have the tax credits in place to assist you, and in other ways we can be supportive. The Farm Bureau President, Dave Fisher, and I are very close. I was walking around with him yesterday. I know he had to head off to Washington because today is the day that they're talking about tariffs. And when I think about all the stress that's on you all day long already, and now you have to factor in, what are these tariffs going to do to my business? How will I overcome this? Our trading partners like Canada and Mexico, particularly Canada though, we're right on the border. And there's such an easy flow of commerce back and forth, and we rely on this. It's so important to all of us. But I want to hear from you today, what is the impact that you're projecting now that tariffs will have on your business? Because they're saying for an average family, the costs could go anywhere from $1,300 to $3,000 higher a year starting this year because of the tariffs that are in place as of today with Canada and Mexico. Now, I know the argument is that it's fentanyl is flowing over the Canadian borders. It was coming in for a while, not in anywhere near the scale we saw on the southern border, but it is down to about 1% of the fentanyl that comes in this country comes over from Canada. And Canada has a very long border. But I, just to make sure, have sent reinforcements. Our state police are up on the border assisting to make sure we can interdict any illegal drugs that come across the border to help the federal government. So we're taking care of this. We're focused on this. But I just think that's a ruse for finding an opportunity to really turn our relationships upside down with important countries that we rely on for partnership and markets for us. And if we lose them, and they're going to have retaliatory tariffs for us, you want to be able to have this uninterrupted flow of commerce, but now we're going to be looking at these additional price tags because of the tariffs. So I think it's just an excuse. As I said, we exported $22 billion worth of goods to Canada. They send over all kinds of supply, fuel, aluminum, steel. You're going to be rebuilding, and we're trying to rebuild our economy. It's been a tremendously beneficial relationship. But we also want to gather, not just here, but I want to going forward, I want to know the impacts of tariffs on our farmers and people across the state. Because I have to be able to quantify this and use this to build the argument when I'm speaking to our legislators, our Republican members of Congress who are in the majority in Washington. When I go to the White House, I want to have the stories, the data, and be able to talk about the impact that these tariffs have had on the state of New York. And so we have tariff impacts at esd.ny.gov is a place. We'll get that all to all of you. And I want to make sure that we do hear the impacts because, like I said, you have enough to worry about. This is the last thing our agricultural community need or our entire state needed, and this is now the reality we're having to deal with. So with that, I want to turn it over to Commissioner Ball and thank him for his leadership. As I mentioned, I know Jim Bittner is our president of the Council of Agricultural Organizations, and Kim Skelly is our vice president of the Farm Bureau. And again, I know Dave is off in Washington right now, right? So we'll make sure that send him our best, Kim. Send him our best. We saw him yesterday. So, Commissioner Ball, let me turn it over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Governor. First of all, let me just say thank you for your leadership, thank you for your friendship, and thank you for your commitment to agriculture in New York State. We tease each other a little bit sometimes about who's been to more farms in New York, me or her, because it's pretty close, and I get to go to a lot of farms. But thanks for gathering us here together to look at some of the challenges, discuss some of the issues. We'll think about some possibilities, look for opportunities, and think about how we can move agriculture in New York State forward. From my perspective, there's a few things that I worry about. There's a few things I'm excited about. And I think number one on the worry about is the uncertainty. I get to be on a lot of farms, a lot of our dairy manufacturing facilities, our food manufacturing facilities, and I see a lot of uncertainty. Uncertainty in the world, certainly, and certainly in our country and on the farms. And so when we can move things from the unknown over to the known, that's always better for everyone. So thank you for this opportunity to do this. One of the things that I am excited about, that I do feel good about, is the investment in agriculture that New York State has made. We rank in the top 10 over 30 different commodities, as you mentioned. We're growing. The Department of Ag, this is our biggest budget we have ever had in New York State. Thank you for that. The growth in our dairy industry and our food industry. And some of the lessons that we learned from the pandemic, that New York City is such a big marketplace, the most diverse, amazing marketplace anywhere in the world. And here in New York, we have the resources. We've got some of the best farmers in the world. We've got access to water. We've got the best land grant system for education in the country. We've got great talent here, and we can connect those dots, and the opportunity to connect those dots is where our future is. So thank you for this opportunity very much,
so.
Governor.
You mentioned New York City. So many people who do not live here think of New York State as only being New York City, right? And when they realize that 25% of our land mass is dedicated to agriculture, they're shocked by that. They have no idea that there's a whole other world outside New York City, as we well know, but also that that agriculture is such a strong industry for us here as well. And Nourish New York has really been a lifeline, especially during the pandemic. I made it permanent to have farmers be able to count on this steady flow of business, even when things are tough. And what happened during the pandemic when there was no dairy needed in our schools and no produce, and it just really was so hard to be able to work on, as I mentioned when I became governor, making the Nourish New York program permanent. So we're always trying to find creative ways to be an ally to you, and we're always looking for ideas from the Farm Bureau and others. So that's part of the conversation we want to keep going. But I think at this point I want to hear, what's on your mind, what your concerns are. Let's Kim, tell us what people are thinking.